Number 1. This happened about 4 years ago. I had just graduated from high school and was a month and a half into the summer break. Needing some money for college, I began working full-time for the school district that I just graduated from. Due to a music festival that I wanted to attend, as well as monetary concerns, I did not go with my family to North Carolina. Which was fine by me. What 18-year-old doesn't want a house to themselves for a week? Furthermore, my parents' house is out in the country, so I had little to no fear about my neighbors complaining about parties or being bothered in any way whatsoever. But I was wrong. I often take the back roads home from my friend's house, but on that night I decided that I wanted some McDonald's. So I took the main drag and came home on a different route. This way takes you past the mechanic's shop, not a mile away from our cul-de-sac. It was between midnight and 1 a.m, and as I passed the mechanic's shop, I noticed the car's lights turning on. Or should I say a light, for this car had only one headlight working. I remember thinking that it was strange that this car all of a sudden turned its lights on as I was passing, and began to become even more concerned when it pulled out behind me. But I tend to be paranoid by nature. Nothing serious, but I always question if the person behind me is following me, and whether they mean harm. So I brushed this off as an unfortunate coincidence. But as I neared my street and the car was still tailing me, I started to become freaked out. I looked at my gas tank, and my heart sank as I saw I was on E. Either I pull on my street and go home, or I risk driving around some and seeing if this dude follows. Yet, that option held the risk of my car running out of gas and leaving me stranded on the road, and I figured I'd rather take my chances on my own soil than on the side of some dark, lonely country back road. So I turned onto my street, only to have my heart sink when the one headlamped car makes the turn right behind me. At this point, I know I'm screwed. With nothing left to do, I began pulling up my driveway. It's a hill about 100 yards long. To my utter horror, they begin to follow me up. Looking back, I should have called the cops, but there is no love lost between law enforcement and myself, and at the time, I was too caught up to even consider calling them. If my family would have been home, this never would have happened. I would have called my dad, and he would have just grabbed his gun. But he, along with the rest of my family, were gone, 12 hours away at the beach. So, when they began to drive up my driveway after me, I stopped and put my car in reverse. They responded by reversing as well, yet they stopped at the bottom of the hill, effectively blocking my driveway. At this point, I pulled forward again, only to have the same jig and dance happen. They followed, I reversed, they reversed, and sat at the bottom of the driveway, blocking my escape. I quickly pulled up and turned my car around to come at them head on. By this time, they were halfway up my driveway, the furthest they had come up. Looking back, I was terrified, alone, and angry. Who did this person think they were? With my brights on and shining right into their face, I opened my car door and got out. I pulled out my pocket knife and grasped it in my left hand while I grabbed my hammer in my right. I used to keep one in between my seat and door. In some weird, desperate mindset, I made a split-second decision to grab the hammer from the head with the handle sticking out. My hope was that it would be mistaken for a gun. I began yelling and pointing with my hammer, now gun, at the car, screaming at them to "Get the fuck out!" and "What do you want, you motherfucker?" All the while, I held my hammer as a gun and prayed they would fall for it. Whether they did or not, I cannot say. Part of me believes they thought it was a gun due to my brights being behind me, making my whole front side a shadow. Yet they could have just not wanted a fight. Perhaps they thought I was a girl, or was timid and wouldn't resist so aggressively and violently. Who knows, but it worked. And they slowly backed out of my driveway and crept around the cul-de-sac. As they were leaving my street, I ran after them, hiding behind my neighbors' houses, and at every driveway, the car would slow down to a near stop, as if scoping out the houses. Thankfully, they didn't pull into any driveways and they turned off my street altogether. After I was safely in my house, I ate my McDonald's by the front window with all the lights turned off, waiting to see if they had come creeping back. Thankfully, they didn't. But that night, I locked every door in the house, which I always did anyways, and slept with a hammer, machete, and a baseball bat next to me, and my pocket knife under the pillow. Complete overkill, I know, but I was terrified. Now I know where my dad keeps his guns, so if it ever happens again, I'll be better prepared. Regardless though, whoever the hell was in that single headlighted car, I hope we never meet again. Number 2. This all ended a couple of months ago, and I only now feel comfortable sharing it. For background, I'm a 24-year-old female living in Australia and work in an establishment that caters for an adult audience. One night, as my shift is coming to a close, one of the patrons asks me to buy me a drink, which I accept because employer policy. I talk him up to a couple of expensive drinks for the two of us, have a quick conversation, and make my excuses about my shift being over, but he should come back to see me soon. I feel his gaze undressing me in his mind as he licks the splash of his drink from his upper lip. He stands up with this creepy grin and asks to walk me to my car. Now, I'm no idiot. I know never to put myself in that position, and politely decline and tell him that I might see him next time. I walk out past our biggest bouncer, and the guy doesn't follow me. Great, nothing extraordinary, just standard par for the course in my profession. But suddenly, this isn't where our story ends. Oh no, for this creep, it's only just the beginning. I'm off for a week after that night, but when I come back into work, I'm told a patron has been coming in every night for the last week, asking for me. He says that he wants to buy me another drink. Naively, I think, oh, great, a bigger pay this week, and get set for my shift. The night rolls on, and who should roll in but our main man of the hour, and he asks for me right away. So, I saunter over, and he buys me a drink. The whole time I'm sitting there with him, he just has this creepy grin on his face. Not like a sexual undressing creep grin. That's just normal. No, this was the kind of grin where he knows something you don't, and is very pleased with himself about that fact. So, we're talking, and I'm getting him ordering himself drinks, and trying to upsell him where I can. About half an hour goes by, and I make my excuses to leave, so I can try to spread the tips around. But this guy isn't having it. He won't let me leave, and the more I insist, the angrier he gets. He's practically hissy at me by the time I give a look to one of the bouncers, who promptly comes over and diffuses the situation, giving me an opportunity to walk away. Crisis averted, I guess. Wrong. The bouncer doesn't throw him out. He just gives me a buffer, so this guy starts following me around the place, even attempting to walk into an employee-only area, which is where another bouncer finally notices and kicks him out. I finish my shift and walk over to my car. There he is. I shit you not, sitting on the bonnet of my car. How he knew it was my car, I will never know. He wants me to give him a ride and tells me how sexy I look. He's spewing greasy slimeball creep lines at this point, and I'm not interested. I try to give him a hint nicely and decline to give him a ride. But again, He just turns mean and grabs me by the arm, insisting that I give him a ride. I tell him to fuck off and jam my key in his shoulder as hard as I can. He lets go, and I push him with all my might so he falls down. I jump in my car, lock the door, and shove that key into the ignition. He's back up and banging on the window angrily to let him in. And I mean hard, so hard, and I think his hands on my window might break. I gun the accelerator, and I'm out of there. When I get 5 minutes down the road, and I'm sure that I'm not being followed, I pull over to the side of the road and call back to work. I tell them what's happening, and alert them that the girls just need to be careful leaving tonight. As I hung up the phone, I break into tears. Now, this isn't my first rodeo. I've been grabbed before, and the truth is, I probably will be again. But you never get used to it, you know. I eventually compose myself, pull back onto the road, and head home. I cry myself to sleep. Next morning, word has gotten around, and the owner calls me to make sure that I'm okay. I assure him that I am, but he insists that I take some time off. He wants to put some distance between us. Makes sense. A week goes by, then 2. He's coming in every night asking about me, and he's being told that I quit and don't work there anymore. I lie to get him to stop coming in, you know. But he just keeps coming in and asking, clearly not buying it, and then suddenly 2.5 weeks afterwards, he stops coming altogether. Great. I'm really needing of some money at this point, so I'm happy to be able to go back to work the following week. Time goes on and everything seems to go back to normal. Same old chances, but the good kind that lead to a higher paycheck. The abusive guy doesn't come back in anymore. I'm happy. I start being forgetful though. I think I leave a door closed when I leave the house, but it's open when I get back. The lights are on or off, food let out. Things ending up in different places than I remember putting them, sometimes moments before. I'm losing my mind, but it's probably just the stress of everything that has gone on. One of my close friends who works with me reassures me that it's normal after being grabbed like that, and it will pass. This keeps up for a month until one day, I head out to work, get 15 minutes down the road, and realize that I forgot some clothes that I will need for work that night. I head back home only to find the lights in my front room on, and the TV visible as on from the outside. I really am losing it, and good thing I came back, I guess. I head inside to grab my stuff, make sure to turn the TV off and the light out and head to the door. Suddenly, I freeze. There, standing blocking the door, is the creep that grabbed me. I'm stunned, jaw dropped on the floor. And then after what seems like a lifetime of standing in silence, staring at each other, him smiling that fucking smile, I scream, "What the fuck?" And I'm screaming for him to get out and ask him what he's doing here, how he knows where I live, all in one jumbled mouthful of confusion. He just stands there with that smile on his face, while I'm loudly freaking out, but stupidly not moving. I start gasping for air in a mixture of panic attack and bewilderment. Then he decides to speak in my wake. The words ooze out of him and leave me chilled.
Welcome home, honey. You're back early.
A switch goes off in my mind. I throw everything that I have on me at him and sprint to the back door. I'm outski. I leg it faster than I have in my life, screaming bloody murder as I go. No one helps. Stupid, apathetic society. I hide in some bushes around the corner, tears running down my face, gasping for air. I check my pocket, and my keys are still there. No phone though. I threw that at the stalker creep along with everything else. I sneak back to my house, jump in my car, and nope the fuck out of there. I head to work, tell them what's happening, and call the cops. The cops head to my house and send some others to my work. The stalker guy is gone when they turn up. They search the house, and it turns out that he's been living in my crawl space. I'm paranoid. That's what all of those doors and lights and misplaced things was about. I pack up whatever I can fit in my car while cops are still there that they'll let me take, and I drive. I haven't been back since. I moved states, knew everything. So, creepy stalker guy, let's never meet again. Number 3. This happened to me tonight around 8 p.m. So, I was trying to get a bus on my way home, and as soon as I got on the bus, I noticed this guy sitting in the front. Seems and looks like a normal dude, like he just finished a long day of work. When I find a seat by the window near the back, that same guy moves to a seat in front of me, which also gives him a clear view of me. I was wondering why, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt. However, there was something about this entire situation that just didn't seem right, so I begin watching him from the reflection on the window. I see that he's staring at me, and when I look in his direction, he looks away. Okay. He then proceeds to look out of the window, rummage through his bags, drink some Gatorade, and apply some Vaseline on his hands. Basically, trying to come off as inconspicuous as possible. Yet there was something about the way his feet were positioned, how he was constantly doing something, and obviously him looking at me. That did not settle right with me. The stop I was planning on getting off at is a really quiet part of town, and I'd have to walk a bit to get to my destination. And with businesses already closed, there'd be nobody around besides cars zooming by. So at the very last minute, I decided to get off in a much more busy area. Just like I fucking predicted, he catches me from the corner of his eye, requesting the driver to stop, and starts getting ready to leave too. I'm slow to alight, and so is he. I look at him, and so is he. Since the stop is directly in front of a train station, I prayed that he was just going to walk in there, so that all of this was a misunderstanding. Nope. There is a good distance between us on the street, but he puts his bags down, pretends to rummage them, but still has his eyes on me. I stay where I am, also because another bus at the same stop was going to come soon that take me closer to my destination, and so I watch him from the corner of my eye. A couple of minutes pass and he walks away. I notice him getting on the streetcar a block down, and I can finally breathe. I see my bus coming and I'm just so fucking relieved. I look back in his direction one last time and noticed that he got off the streetcar and is just standing there. I hurry into the bus and pray that he doesn't just come running towards the bus. He doesn't, and I get to my destination safely. Even though the bus driver completely skips over my stop for some fucking reason, but whatever, as long as he isn't following me anymore. So, yeah, that was my strange and quite frightening encounter. I'm writing this post to warn you guys to seriously be aware of your surroundings and always question. Normal looking people are capable of being suspicious as fuck. Had I not first walked into the bus and noticed him change seats, I don't know what would have happened to me tonight.